I stood in the kitchen that morning, just like I had 1,000 times before. The coffee was brewing. The sun was barely up. The silence in the house felt heavier than usual. My son, 27 years old, was sitting at the kitchen table scrolling on his phone, earbuds in, completely lost in his own world. I cleared my throat. Nothing. I spoke louder this time. Hey, can we talk for a second? He took one earbud out, just one, didn't even look up. Yeah, what's up? I hesitated. I had rehearsed this in my head all night, but now, standing in front of him, I felt small, like I needed his approval for the first time in my life. I've been thinking, I said. I'm ready to retire early, step away from everything. Just take a breath. He blinked, finally looked up, but not with concern, with confusion, annoyance. You're retiring? He repeated, as in quitting work? Just like that. I nodded slowly. I've worked every day since I was 20, built a business from the ground up. I just sold it. It's time. I want to enjoy life before it's too late. He laughed, not a warm laugh, the kind that stings. Okay, so what? You're gonna sit around here all day? Watch Netflix? Nap on the couch? My jaw tightened. No, I said carefully. I just thought it'd be nice to spend more time together. Maybe travel. Maybe. He cut me off. Look, I'm already covering most of the bills. You think now I should also babysit you? I froze. I didn't ask you to babysit anyone, I replied, my voice trembling. I'm not asking for anything. But it didn't matter. He'd already made up his mind. You're becoming a burden, Dad, he said bluntly. Maybe it's time you moved out. And just like that, 27 years of sacrifice, gone, erased with a single sentence, like I was some stranger overstaying his welcome. I stood there in that kitchen, frozen. His words echoed in my head like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. You're a burden. Maybe it's time you moved out. For a second, I thought he was joking. I searched his face for a hint of a smile, some trace of the boy who used to beg me to tuck him in at night, but there was nothing. Just cold, tired eyes. Like I was one more thing on his to-do list. I swallowed hard. You want me to leave? My voice cracked in the middle. He sighed. Didn't even meet my eyes. Look, it's not personal. I just need space. I've got a lot going on right now, and having you here, it's just too much. Too much. That hit harder than I expected. I had paid for this house. Every brick, every pipe, every light bulb bought with the hours I never got back. Birthday parties I missed. Vacations I skipped. All so he could have a future. And now, I was too much? I nodded slowly. Didn't say a word. I went to my room, his old room, the one I'd let him keep after college, pulled out a small suitcase. It was dusty. I hadn't used it in years, didn't even know where I'd go. I packed what I could. Some clothes, my meds, the photo of his mother and me. God, she would have been heartbroken. I moved quietly like a ghost. He didn't follow, didn't ask if I needed help, just stayed in the kitchen, still scrolling, still wearing one earbud. When I walked past him with my suitcase, he finally looked up. Don't make this dramatic, he said flatly. I stopped. Not because of his words, but because of how familiar they sounded. Like something I would have said back when I was too busy, too tired, too focused on work to see how people were feeling. Maybe I deserved this. Maybe I'd taught him that people were disposable, just like business deals. But still, this wasn't how I thought it would end. I set the suitcase down by the door, turned back one last time. You'll understand someday, I said quietly. Maybe not today, but someday. And I stepped out. No hugs. No goodbyes, just the sound of the door closing behind me, like the final click of a chapter slamming shut. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to leave. The weight of everything, of him, was crushing me. I couldn't breathe in that house anymore. It felt like the walls were closing in, like the house was no longer mine, no longer a home. I didn't call anyone. I didn't even tell my friends, just drove. For hours. The road stretched out ahead of me, empty and wide. I didn't care where I ended up, just somewhere far away from everything that used to matter. I pulled over at a small motel in the middle of nowhere. The neon sign buzzed above me like a broken promise. I didn't want luxury. I didn't want comfort. I just needed space, breathing room. I threw my suitcase on the bed, opened it up, and stared at the clothes I had packed, the photo of him and me as a family. It was a different time before all the noise, before everything fell apart. I wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding. I wanted to believe that somehow, somewhere deep inside him, my son still cared. But the truth was staring me in the face, and I had to face it head on. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound, every creak of the floorboards felt like a sign. I paced the room, my mind racing, trying to make sense of it all. I kept thinking, maybe I should have done something different. Maybe I should have fought harder. Maybe I should have been better. But in the end, none of that mattered. What mattered was what had happened, what was happening. In the silence of that lonely motel room, I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't go back. So, I did what felt right. I wrote him a note. I didn't know what to say at first. How do you sum up a lifetime of mistakes, of love, of sacrifice and loss in just a few words? But somehow, I found the words. I took out a pen, and I wrote, "Don't worry about me. I'll be just fine. I've made my peace." Simple, but heavy. I signed it with my name, no dad or anything. Just my name. I folded the note and put it on the kitchen counter, where I knew he'd find it. No fanfare, no dramatic exit, just a few words, and a lifetime of silence. I left it there on the counter, and I walked away. The days bled together. I didn't care. I didn't want to care. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. The cabin was small, tucked away at the edge of a forest. The walls creaked with the wind, but it was peaceful, quiet. I spent my mornings walking along the trail behind the house, the ground damp with the early morning mist, the air crisp and clean. It was like I could breathe for the first time in years. I didn't check my phone. I didn't check my emails. No more meetings, no more deadlines. Just me, the trees, the birds, and the silence. And yet, the silence was deafening. It wasn't the kind of peace I had imagined. I thought it would feel like a reward, like everything would suddenly make sense. But it didn't. I thought I'd be happy, you know. I thought I'd find joy in the simplicity of it all. But the truth, it felt hollow. I sat on the porch one evening, staring at the sunset. It was beautiful, I'll give it that. The kind of beauty that makes you feel small in the grand scheme of the world. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a deep ache in my chest. Where was he? What was he doing? The man I raised. The boy I held in my arms, the one who used to tell me everything. And I never really listened. Had I failed him that badly? Had I really become a burden? The wind whispered through the trees like a voice calling me back. But I didn't move. I couldn't. Days turned into weeks. The world went on. And still, I sat there, alone. I kept telling myself I made the right choice, that I needed to let go. But deep down, something inside me still couldn't. One morning, I woke up to a knock on the door. I froze. I hadn't had any visitors since I arrived. Who could it be? I opened the door, half expecting it to be some kind of sign. But it was just a letter. No return address. No name. Just a simple white envelope with my name scrawled on it. I tore it open, heart racing. Inside was a photo, a picture of him. Standing in front of a shelter, he was volunteering. It was a simple thing. Just a picture. No words. But it was enough. Enough to send a chill through my bones. I turned the photo over. There, written in barely legible handwriting, was the only message he'd ever sent me since I left. "I'm trying, Dad." My heart stopped. I sat down on the porch, the letter still in my hands. Trying. That was all I needed to hear. Maybe there was hope after all. The days after that letter felt different. Not lighter, not easier, just different. I couldn't stop thinking about him. What was he doing? Was he okay? Had he found his way? Or was he still spiraling like I had feared? I kept replaying his face, the face of the boy I raised, and all I could think was, what went wrong? How had we ended up here? I woke up early, every morning, staring at the walls of my small cabin, and for the first time, I realized that it wasn't just him I was missing. It was us. The family we used to be. The life I thought we had. The dream I had worked so hard for. It was slipping away. But no matter how many times I tried to rationalize it, tried to tell myself I made the right decision, deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had done something irreversible. Maybe this wasn't about him at all. Maybe it was about me. Had I gotten so wrapped up in my own world, my own business, my own success that I forgot how to be a father, how to listen, how to care? I thought about the times he had called out for me, and I wasn't there. I thought about the days I'd spent too busy to notice when he was struggling, too focused on building something that could never love me back, and I regretted it, every single day. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. I glanced at the screen. It was an unknown number. I hesitated, but then, against my better judgment, I answered. "Hello?" I said, my voice still rough from weeks of silence. There was a long pause, and then I heard his voice. His voice. "Dad?" It felt like a punch to the gut. That one word, so simple, so full of everything we had lost, sent a shockwave through me. I couldn't speak at first. I couldn't breathe. "Dad, are you there?" he asked again, more urgently this time. "Yeah," I finally whispered. "I'm here." Another pause, and then, "I'm sorry, Dad. I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't mean it. I shouldn't have kicked you out. You didn't deserve that." I sat back, the phone still pressed to my ear. His words hung in the air, thick with regret. I could feel the weight of them, heavy and full of meaning. "I've been struggling, Dad. I don't know how to fix it, but I need to try. I need your help." His voice cracked. I could hear it. And for the first time in months, I felt something that I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Maybe this wasn't over. Maybe we still had a chance. I didn't know what I was expecting when I picked up the phone. Maybe I thought he'd hang up. Maybe I thought I'd hear more of the same excuses. But when he said sorry, I could feel it. I could feel the weight of his regret in every syllable. "I shouldn't have said those things," he continued, his voice breaking slightly. "You've always been there for me, and I was too selfish to see it. I don't know how to fix what I did, but I want to try." The words felt strange, like a foreign language, something I hadn't heard from him in years, but there was sincerity in his voice, real sincerity. I could tell that he wasn't just saying it because he felt obligated. He was saying it because he wanted to. I sat in silence for a moment, just letting it all sink in. I could feel the tension in my chest loosening, the walls I had built around my heart finally beginning to crumble. "Where are you?" I asked quietly, my voice a little shaky. I'm still in the city. I'm trying to figure things out. I want to see you, Dad. I need to apologize face to face." The words hit me harder than I thought they would. He wanted to see me, not out of obligation, not because he had to, but because he needed to. "I'll be there in a couple of days," I said, before I even realized what I was agreeing to. It was impulsive, unplanned, but something inside me told me it was time. It was time to stop running. Time to stop hiding. The days leading up to his arrival felt like a blur. I didn't know what to expect when I saw him again. Would he be the same person who kicked me out? The same person who had pushed me away like I was nothing? But when I opened the door and saw him standing there, it was different. He looked different, like he had been through something, like he had learned. He stood there, hands in his pockets, looking a little lost, a little unsure. I don't know what to say," he began, his voice softer than I remembered. "I messed up, Dad. I really messed up. But I'm trying. I'm trying to be better." My heart swelled. For a moment, I didn't know what to say either. It was the hardest thing I'd ever had to do, to look at my son, to face all the pain and frustration, and still want to reach out to him. I stepped forward slowly, and then I just hugged him. I hugged him like I hadn't hugged anyone in years, like I hadn't been waiting for this moment all along, and for the first time, I could feel the weight lifting off both of us. "I'm proud of you," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "You're trying, and that's what matters." He pulled back, wiping his eyes, and nodded. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I know I hurt you, but I want to make it right." And for the first time in a long time, I believed him. The days after our reunion felt strange. Not in a bad way, but not entirely comfortable either. It was like we were standing on the edge of something, a precipice we hadn't quite figured out how to navigate. I could tell he was trying. He was trying to make up for the hurt, trying to show me that he was different, but there was something unspoken between us, an invisible wall that neither of us knew how to break down. We spent the first few days just talking about everything and nothing. We went to dinner together. I tried to talk to him like I had when he was younger, like we had before all of this. This distance, but it was hard. The words felt clumsy, awkward, like we had forgotten how to connect. We both avoided the heavy stuff, the stuff that really mattered. I knew it, and he knew it too. He kept asking questions, small things about my life, about the cabin, about the things I had been doing, but he never once asked about what happened between us, not directly. And I didn't either. I wanted to, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. There was too much there, too much pain, too much regret. The years of silence, the cold words he had said to me. I didn't know how to talk about it without breaking down. But then one night, as we sat in the living room, the TV playing softly in the background, he turned to me. "Dad," he said, his voice almost too quiet to hear. I looked up, meeting his gaze. There was something different in his eyes, something raw, vulnerable. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, about how I treated you, about what I said, and I know I can't take any of it back. But I need you to know, I was angry and I didn't know how to handle it. I thought pushing you away would make things easier, but it didn't. It made everything worse. My chest tightened. I had known he was struggling, but hearing him say it out loud was different. It was harder than I thought it would be. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore, Dad. He continued, looking down at his hands. I was scared. I was scared that you were leaving me, scared that I wasn't enough, and instead of telling you that, I pushed you away. I thought that if I made you leave first, it wouldn't hurt as much. I felt the weight of his words settle in my chest. There was so much he had kept inside, for so long. I wish I could have told you that, he said, his voice barely a whisper. I wish I could have told you I was scared, but I was too proud. And now I'm just scared that it's too late. My throat tightened. It wasn't too late. Not yet. I reached across the couch, my hand hovering for a moment before I placed it on his shoulder. I'm here, son, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I'm still here, and I'm not going anywhere. For the first time in what felt like forever, we just sat there, in silence. But this time, it was a comfortable silence. A silence that spoke volumes. The silence between us that night felt different. It was heavy with everything that had been left unsaid. But this time, it didn't feel like we were avoiding it. This time, it felt like we were finally ready to face it. We sat there for what felt like hours. I didn't know what to say, and neither did he. But somehow, it didn't matter. We were in the same room. Finally. And that was enough. The next morning, after a long night of talking, he left. It was only for a few days. He had to get back to work. But as he drove away, I realized how much had changed in just a few days. The weight in my chest was lighter, the anger, the resentment, the guilt. They weren't completely gone, but they didn't feel as suffocating as before. I stayed busy. I worked around the cabin, cleaning, fixing things, staying focused. But every now and then my mind wandered to him, to his face, the way he had looked at me when he spoke his truth, the vulnerability in his eyes. I had seen that same vulnerability in myself years ago, and it reminded me of how far we had both fallen and how far we still had to go. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was him. Dad. His voice came through the line, shaking slightly. I think I've figured it out. About what happened. And about us. My heart skipped. What do you mean? I asked, sitting down on the porch, the phone pressed to my ear. I don't think I ever really understood what I was losing, Dad, until I almost lost you. I've been thinking about everything you did for me, the sacrifices you made, the love you gave me, even when I didn't deserve it. There was a long pause. I know it's not enough, but I want to try. I want to build something real this time, not just for me, but for us. I closed my eyes, fighting the tears. It wasn't enough just to say it. We both knew that, but it was a start, a real start. You don't have to fix everything all at once, I said, my voice steady but thick with emotion. I've been running from things too, son. We've both got a long way to go, but I believe we can make it through this. Together. He took a deep breath, the sound crackling through the line. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for not giving up on me. I never will, I said, meaning every word. And for the first time in a long time, I truly meant it. The rest of the conversation passed in a blur. But as we said goodbye, I could feel something new between us, a glimmer of hope, a chance at redemption. It's strange, isn't it? How life can change in a matter of days. How we can go from feeling like everything is falling apart to suddenly feeling like maybe, just maybe, everything might be okay. It's been 2 months since that phone call. 2 months since my son and I started this journey to rebuild everything we had lost. The journey hasn't been easy. We've both stumbled, both faltered along the way. But there's one thing I know for sure. We're trying. He came back to visit a few more times after that first reunion. Each time, things felt a little bit lighter, a little bit easier. We talked more. We laughed more. We even found ourselves sitting in silence sometimes. But it wasn't the uncomfortable silence we used to share. It was a peaceful kind of silence, the kind that comes when you've learned to simply be with someone again. One night, after dinner, we sat out on the porch just watching the sunset. The sky was painted with streaks of orange and pink, and for a moment, everything felt right. "Dad," he said, breaking the silence, "I've been thinking a lot about the future, about what's next for both of us." I turned to look at him, my heart tightening in my chest. He was staring off into the distance, but I could see the uncertainty in his eyes, the same uncertainty I had felt when I first left everything behind. "Yeah," I said, leaning back in my chair. "What's next for you?" He hesitated, then smiled. "I don't know yet, but I know one thing for sure. I want to be a better son, a better person. I want to make things right." I swallowed hard. It wasn't the grand gesture I had once expected from him, but it was more than enough. It was everything. I reached over and put my hand on his shoulder. "You already are, son. You already are." And in that moment, I realized something. It wasn't about fixing everything all at once. It wasn't about erasing the past. It was about moving forward, together, one step at a time. We had both made mistakes. We had both hurt each other. But we had also learned. And we had grown. The sun dipped below the horizon, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. For the first time in a long time, I believed that the future wasn't something to be feared. It was something to be embraced. And as we sat there in the fading light of the evening, I knew this wasn't the end of our story. It was just the beginning.